You may have noticed a table outside the lobby area today. Please patronize our own local author, Mrs. B.J. Holmes, as she has written 2 different children's books dealing with the topic of community violence. Mrs. Holmes, please stand and be recognized. At this time, I'd like to ask any elected officials to stand and be recognized as well.
Commissioner Lumpkins.
Commission. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. The next person I'd like to introduce to you is our moderator for tonight. Andrea DJ Super Dre Wallace works for Spectrum Health System with Enterprise Software Engineering and Marketing teams as the lead e-communications consultant. She holds 2 undergraduate degrees from Grand Valley State University, 1 in music and 1 in marketing. She is also currently enrolled in the Master's of Business Administration program at Grand Valley State University. In addition to a business career, Andrea is also an accomplished DJ and has DJed at many of the venues in Grand Rapids. She currently holds a residency at 6 Nightclub and can be seen DJing at many events across Michigan. Her past residencies include Churchill's Bistros and My Place Nightclub. Please give a round of applause for Andrea DJ Super Dre Wallace.
Hello, everybody, and I'd like to thank the Black Student Union for having me here tonight. And tonight, I will be your moderator. And let's see. All right, so before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping tips. First of all, the purpose of this whole program is to examine the lifestyles of drug involvement, also of gang activity, things that affect our actual community. So our panel has been really strategically chosen for this purpose. In following the scripted questions, we will allow for questions from the audience. And during the panel discussion, if you have a question to ask the panel, please raise your hand, and then a member of the Black Student Union will bring you a white index card. If you could write legibly on this card, when you're finished, raise your hand again, and then the member of the Black Student Union will pick it up from you. And I'll ask these questions aloud, and then the panelists will have an opportunity to answer. And our hope is to have all the questions read, but again, in the interest of time, we may not be able to do everything. So if your question is overlooked, I apologize. And after our answer segment, we'd like to come up with an applicable intervention strategy for here in the greater Grand Rapids region, since this is where we live. So first, I'd like to start with an introduction of our panelists. Unfortunately, Mrs. Shelley Cole Mickens will not be joining us tonight due to the recovery of her recent surgery. But for the panelists who are here tonight, I would like to introduce each of you by name. And if you could please take no more than 3 minutes to give us a little bit of background about your experience with dealing with community violence and the lifestyles that contribute to it. And also, if you have a specific incident that you would like to talk about, please go ahead and share that, how you've experienced it and how it affected you. So first, we'd like to start with DJ Head DiBiase. Please introduce yourself.
You want to start with me, huh?
You're right there.
Alright, yeah, my name is Aaron McDonald. I go by the name of DJ Head DiBiase. A lot of people know me as DJ Head. You know, I'm going to be home for the anti-violence community. Alright, I got you. Yeah, through the time that I've DJed, through the years, I've been DJing for about the last 15, 16 years. I might not look like it. 28 years old, and through that time, I've seen a lot of violence, like in the clubs, parties, on the street. I lost a lot of friends due to it. I've seen people murdered. I've seen people jump, beat up, people get shot. Just about everything you could think about has to do with violence. I've seen people get their throats slit and all that. And like all I want to say is, really, it's time for a stop. It's time for a change, but it starts in the home, and that's all I gotta say. You know, we'll get into more in depth with it later, but that's all I have to say right now, though.
All right, thank you, Head. And we've got 2 panelists who are missing tonight, but we also have Robert Hill here joining us. Robert, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, how everybody doing? My name is Robert Hill. I'm originally from California, 26. And basically, I'm here more as a view, not about violence, but more of the crime that goes on within the streets as far as, drug dealing, gang activity, things like that. Me, myself, everything happens for a reason, Not everything that people do is something that's forced upon them. A lot of people are put into certain situations. And, a lot of people who actually are put in these situations, they don't know any other outlet. They don't have any other way to go. So streets and violence, gangs, stuff like this is what they turn to. And, I've seen a lot from, coming from California. I've lived in Florida, and now I'm here in Michigan. And it's real, It's a real thing that we're dealing with, but what's realer than that is the fact that, where's the solution at? Because if there was a solution, we wouldn't have these problems. So, I'm just here to give my little insight on that.
Thank you, Robert. And next, I'd like to introduce Lataro Trailer. Lataro, please introduce yourself.
My name is Lataro Trailer. I am a lifelong resident of Grand Rapids, and basically Sarah invited me to be on the panel as someone who I grew up by Oakdale and Eastern and in the Black Hills. So as somebody, growing up in the inner city, but still, I've always excelled academically. I've always, been real good in school and everything. So, and even now, today, I'm at Cooley Law School now, but I still, have that. It's kind of like a doppelganger type thing in one person, where I still owe it to myself to getting in with the books, because I got a knack for that. But then I still like to be in the mix, because that's where I'm from and what I know and where I feel comfortable. I'm in my element there. So just for those of you who come from where I come from and are trying to be where I am. So.
Thank you, Lataro. And next, I'd like to introduce Elder Talib El-Amin. Elder El-Amin, please introduce yourself.
Greetings. I'm Talib El-Amin, and I know from which she speaks. I'm a West Sider, and she mentioned the Black Hills. I remember when we played baseball on the Black Hills. That was before they had apartments up there. Mm-hmm. I went to grade school, high school, and college right here in Grand Rapids. I know this town. I, too, lived in California, San Francisco, for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to cross the pond quite a bit. When I grew up, the violence basically was street fighting. So I saw one person get shot in the first 18 years of my life. And there were no drugs. Drugs weren't widespread. I never saw drugs growing up in Grand Rapids. When I returned at the age of 20, it was the first time I actually saw drugs and drug use. And my view is the drugs were spread during the 60s after this great awakening of the young black youth. We were exposed to literature that we hadn't been exposed to. We found out that we were actually creative people, that we were actually civilization builders, that we actually brought something to the world other than our athletic and entertainment skills. So there was this huge awakening, and we started pounding the libraries and turning pages and became aware and started making demands that conditions change. We demanded that we have black teachers in the schools. We demanded that they have curriculum. We demanded that they have Black History Month appreciation and recognition to allow us to find out who we were as people, what we brought to the world stage, and how we could become better people. Right after that, Superfly. Anybody hit the Superfly? We saw them usher in Superfly. And this is when we really saw the spread, the beginning spread of cocaine throughout the communities. And we also saw the degradation of our women during that period. We went from hello sister, greeting you my precious queen sister to where it's deteriorated to now, the things that our men are calling our women and grandmothers and mothers. It's despicable. And the violence came along with it, that infighting, fighting over nothing, fighting over turf that we don't own, we're all renting. So I say there is a solution. It's an internal solution. It's internal reparations. And we have to pass these solutions along.
Thank you, Elder El-Amin. And then next on our panel, we have Commissioner Eli Lumpkins. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I bring you greetings from the city of Grand Rapids and St. Luke AME Zion Church and the hood. It's good to be back home. I attended Grand Rapids Community College many years ago, and I still have a lot of friends here, and I appreciate some of the things that are going on campus, and I salute Sarah Hill and all of the staff people who are working together with our, not tomorrow's leaders, but our leaders today. Because not only are they our future, but what we do and invest in young people today will determine what type of society we have in the future. I'm a product of the state of Mississippi, and I came to Grand Rapids during the Great Migration. My stepfather came up from Mississippi to get a job over on Front Street where they had many foundries. And you might have read a book about man-child in the promised land. We thought we had arrived because we thought that Grand Rapids was the promised land. There were a lot of opportunities in Grand Rapids, but many of those opportunities were limited to people of color. But things have changed. I think if you had asked me a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, if we would have an African-American president, I would have said no. But as Obama went around the country talking about the audacity of hope, things that the country should be doing, that it was time for change, I began to see and catch his vision. And I think this election is something that we should study because it shows what can be done if people of all colors and all shades and ethnic backgrounds work together. They can move the world. And I think what he did in 2 years, this country will never be the same. The amount of money that he raised, the coalitions that he put together, and many of those systems he's using today. I don't think it's a coincidence that many people at this table work in the area of communications. They have gifts and they have talents. Many times we put down young folks, but I think we have to step back and recognize that they have talents. And Obama figured out a way to harness those talents and the youth and the energy that they had to go out into the community. But not only did he have youth working for him, he had some of the more seasoned folks like myself working. There were a lot of gray-haired volunteers. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. You see what's happening with the stimulus bill. That bill has, what was the lady from Alaska's name? The lady from Alaska. Who? Okay, Sarah talked about pork, right? Now, pork has been added to this bill, but I think you have to keep the goal in mind. I think someone said that. The goal is to try to get people working, to try to restore some of the income that they've lost due to the greed of many of the bankers. So I think we have to look at ways that we can work together to not only support Obama. We've got him in office now, but now we've got to be sure that they don't undermine him and cause him to fail. So I'll be quiet, but I'm from behind the cotton curtain, Mississippi.
Thank you, Commissioner Lumpkins. All right, let's give the panel a round of applause, everybody. And let's get into our first question. Our first question is, and this is open to the whole panel, what are the reasons that young people are drawn to lifestyles that contribute to community violence? And this is open to anyone, to whichever one of you would like to start answering that. That would be great.
Repeat that one more time.
And the question is, once again, let's see. One, what are the reasons that young people are drawn to lifestyles that contribute specifically to community violence?
One of the biggest things is imagery. I would almost bet my left arm that everybody in this room has at least 2 boob tubes in their home. Plus they have probably one in their pocket. And then there's a desktop. And then there's one they're carrying, a laptop in a case. And we're exposed to all kinds of imagery that we weren't exposed to. We come when television's advent. When the people developed television, I remember reading back in the 50s and 60s them saying this is going to be the greatest programming tool to ever come by. Television is the babysitter, has been the babysitter for most of you. Am I right or wrong? If you're under 30. You spend hours and hours, and they put everything known to mankind on the boob tube. Sesame Street was one of the greatest programs out. But then after Sesame Street, it was sex, drugs, and violence. So we're victims of what's put before us. And then we go to the large screen, and it's sex, drugs, and violence. And then we go out to the clubs, and it's sex, drugs, and violence. And these themes are pushed. And then you have poverty, extreme poverty in inner cities, extreme. Most of us probably have a net worth of under $40,000. Some of us under $10,000. So we have the extreme grinding poverty, and then we're trying to be other than what we are, poor, disadvantaged, deprived people. Then you have the whole jealousy issue of one person getting something and another person not having, and we feed off that. Isn't it amazing that we don't see the violence in East Grand Rapids, in Forest Hills, in Walker, in upscale, as they would say, neighborhoods? They don't have as many reasons to perpetrate violence on each other. But there are all kinds of issues that have people, crab in the barrel syndrome, especially in inner cities. So it's a mindset. And then we're miseducated. Very, very few of us have a knowledge of self, a knowledge of who and what we are and what our purpose is in life. There is a tradition that's thousands and thousands of years old where people used to be given names based on the characteristics that elders thought they saw in a child, and then the elder's job was to steer the child to become that, whatever it was, that gift to the community. We don't have that, and we don't have rites of passage to bring our little boys into big boys and into manhood. Now the big boys teach the little boys, and the big boys weren't taught, so they don't have much to teach, and the elders are pushed aside. Sometimes some young people say the elders have deserted them. Elders are pushed aside. So we've got to reconnect the elders with the young people with ideas and plans, teach self-love, self-respect, how to be all you can be, and show that there's a way out. There's a way off Cass Street. You can live on Cass, but you don't have to have a Cass mentality. I grew up on Granville. I don't have a Granville mentality. I have a world mentality. But Granville is where I am, where I'm from. So it's a mindset. I believe we have to change our minds and our hearts, and that can be done. I'm a firm believer it can be done. I'll leave here believing it can be done. But it's got to be through a mutual respect kind of a thing. And then youth wanting to learn, elders wanting to share and teach. There are very few young people in their 20s know as much as I know. I think it's impossible because I got a 40-year head start. Plus, I've got the wisdom from people who came before me. So it's up to us to share what we know about how to pull together and build, and for you to come along and be the soldiers and build it.
Thank you so much. Anybody else want to comment on that?
I do. Just from my own personal experience, I mean, if you grow up in the inner city and, I mean, you attend the 4 public high schools, it's really kind of hard to kind of sidestep it. I mean, you don't got to take it to, violence, how it is, like once you get to the point where you no longer have an interest in school and where you're just not even trying to go to school at all. But I mean, like I said, speaking from my own personal experiences, I was sidetracked a lot, whether it'll be going to school and leaving and, doing whatever we do out here, when it really, now that I think about it, we wasn't really doing nothing to mention, but it was just sounding better than going to school or whatever. And I mean, eventually you get to a point where maybe you miss so much school, they kick you out, or you can't go back and you go to an alternative school, and whatever happens there, you get put out of there. So then you pretty much blew it for school or whatever. So now you expel from all Grants public schools. You can't go to, which I never understood that. How you can expel somebody from school. I would think that the goal would be to try to keep them in school by any means necessary. If you gotta send the police to their house to get them to go to school. But I always say, I feel like it's the parents. I grew up with everything, granted, we didn't have, you know what I'm saying, you look on the videos now and you see just grandiose wealth and all of this stuff. I mean, we didn't have that, but we had Eazy-E and Ghetto Boys and Ice Cube, and we had all that. So don't think that it's the music, oh, blame it on the music. But what we did have were parents, and not just my parents, but everybody's parents. And I went to Dickinson Elementary School, and I swear I see parents right now to this day that still will give me that look, because we knew better. And it's like kids these days, they don't know better and they don't care. And it's like, where are the parents? I mean, I don't know where the parents are. I mean, I understand parents they gotta work, they got other things to do, they got stuff to do. I do understand that, but you definitely need somebody to kind of counteract the television. You need somebody to counteract the streets, because it's there waiting for them. The TV, when you go home, it's gonna be there. When you get off the bus at Miss Tracy's, everybody gonna be there. It's there. So you definitely gotta have parents there letting the kids know what's really important and what's gonna get them through to the next level. So that's my take on it, I guess.
Thank you so much, Charles. So we've already learned that some of the lifestyles of violence that tend to happen around, not even just around here, but all across America in general, some of those things, like Elder El-Amin mentioned, because of imagery, basically the media, some of the things that are portrayed on TV, through music, etc., and then also because of maybe lack of some parenting that goes on in the home. So based on that, we'll move on to the next question. And over the past few years, it seems as though street life has celebrated violence that has occurred. And I know some of you will know this personally, but shirts have been printed and sold stating that this is gun rule. Grand Rapids is gun rule. So many youths have proudly proclaimed the city as gun rule as well. So do you think that this name perpetuates violence or glorifies it? I'd like to pose that question to the panel.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
That's for you.
That ain't for me. That's me. I'm gonna be honest with you. A good friend of mine, by the name of Lotta Dark, man, he made that name up years ago. And honestly, I'm not sure if the name brings all of that or what, but my take on it is, it's just like Elder El-Amin said, as far as representing streets and all of that, and you rent from the property, you know what I'm saying? I'm not about that. I represent myself. The name is just a name. It's like the name you have yourself, so I represent for myself. But at the same time, back to the first question, it starts with the family. These days, a lot of the family, they're not there for the rest of their family. Your brothers not there for brothers, sisters not there for sisters, and it all boils back to that. But as far as the name go, I don't have nothing to do with that.
Does anybody else have any other comments on the name?
Honestly, okay, you know how it is. If you're from a city, it's going to have a nickname wherever you're from. I'm sure y'all probably thinking of some cities that got nicknames or whatever. I personally was saying gun rule, like RU. And then, like, Wildem came out at the concert, they like, it's gun rule, RULE, it ain't RU, so they just like expressly like put it out there like this is what it is. So I haven't used that since, because gun rule, like, I just really don't think Grand Rapids is that high of a city. We're going to get to that later when we talk about gangs, and I just really don't think it's no real gangs and stuff in Grand Rapids. When I think about gangs, like something that somebody would die for, and as far as like a criminal enterprise, people getting together to make money, the people here is like, okay, we live around by each other, we always bumping into each other, so let's get together and walk around together. Oh, and if somebody say they gonna do something to you and you get scared, we'll shoot them. Like they do stuff because out of like they scared, like they don't want to be embarrassed.
Right.
Like, I remember it'd be days we'd get off the bus and we already know, that somebody is about to go down. We not about to go get a gun. We either gonna get beat up or we gonna try to stick it out or whatever. Like it wasn't never about trying to end nobody's life or nothing. But anyways, back to the whole gun rule thing. Grand Rapids is just not all that gangster to me, so I just don't even get off into all that. So
yeah, I feel you on that.
I got something to say to that. It's true that it's like they say you speak life. You can talk about something and it'll happen
to existence.
Yeah. Right. Now we could call this gun rule all day. But if people stop shooting each other, it's still gonna be gun rule.
Right.
Miami going to drought is still gonna be in my yayo. Right. You see what I'm saying? So it's not so much as the name; it's just the people, how they interpret it and what they do with it. You know, that's all it is. It could be a gun, not even a gun you shoot people with. It could just saying that people fired up. You know what I mean? About whatever. You can manipulate it to be whatever you want. But it's like you said, there's the people who, want to be and do this. And
more than what they are. But see, me personally, I don't think the name had nothing to do with the violence that goes on around here.
It's gonna happen anyway.
Because it's gonna happen anyway. But it's like a lot of the youth these days, they living in fear because of so much what's going on. They see like a lot of stuff they see just going to school. You can see somebody get shot going to school. What is that? That make you want to turn around and go back home. Like I don't even want to be around these people.
They just printed the paper, the school paper that I just grabbed a couple weeks ago, and they trying to get concealed weapons. You know what I'm saying? People trying to bring guns to school.
Right.
And this ain't the hood. This is community college.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Straight up.
Right.
I'm just being honest about it. You know what I'm saying? Now, if that's the case, then it ain't. Then this shouldn't even be a topic for discussion. If you're gonna allow people like that to even have the idea to want to bring guns to school,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is a place of learning. This ain't the streets.
No shooting range, none of that.
And I'd be honest, I'd be scared.
And that's what it is. They living in fear. That's what it is.
I'd be more scared
right
coming to school knowing there's guns here than out there in the streets knowing there's guns.
And a lot of the older people, the elders, they scared of the young people, so they don't want to talk to them.
I'm scared of them.
You know what I'm saying? I personally, I know pastors and everything that's scared to go talk to the youth and everything. I'm like, what is you scared of? You know what I'm saying? That's a man just like you or whatever the case may be. I'll go talk to anybody, you know what I'm saying, just to try to put my input in. And if I could save somebody, I'm going to try to save them, you know what I'm saying, whatever the case may be. But that's what I see on the daily. I see this every day. Like, I deal with a lot of people on a daily basis, and most of the time, 90% of the time, the people are just scared of the younger people. A lot of people tell me that all the time, man. These young people, they crazy, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to them.
And I know we. I'm sorry. I know we like really getting off topic, like we just like going off on a tangent from the question that was asked. But it's not so much the young people, but it's like if you do try to step to a young person, tell them whatever, they might go get their mama or somebody, and then they just as ignorant as they want to be, and so they ain't about to ask no questions. They about to come to you,
they gonna jump in the fight.
On dummy, and whatever. It's just gonna go from there, and some people you just can't reason with, or some people they just always focusing on the outside because they don't want to look inside because they scared of what's going on, or they don't know themselves, or they are miserable in life, so they trying to take all of that out on you, you know. So.
Yep. Well, thank you very much.
Words shape people. Words shape minds. We haven't hit it yet, but there's an infamous word that if I yelled it out here with a certain tone, all chaos would break loose. The N-word. Words shape people. I don't call my friends dogs because a dog will bite the hand that feeds it. A dog is not a human. I don't call women female dogs in heat like some less than human people will do at the drop of a hat. Words shape people. Words shape our minds. We're so creative, the wordsmiths among us out here. We can come up with every kind of rhyme in the world. We can do 6 beats, 4 beats, 16 beat, you name it, count it backwards, inside out, and spin it around. Why aren't we doing trigonometry? Why aren't we designing skyscrapers? Since we are that, use the words that'll benefit. We're products of about 30 to 40 years of mental degradation. If you don't have a copy, pick up Miseducation of the Negro. Pick up a copy. It's in the library. Dr. Carter Godwin Woodson. He also had a primer before that called The Education of the Negro. He talked about what should be done, and then he examined what was being done and is being done 80 years after he wrote the book, and you'll see this negative mindset is constantly pumped into our children. And then it's acted out. And then the 40-somethings acted out in front of their children, and the 30-somethings in front of their children, and a lot of us are victims of that. It's the words. Words shape us. So if somebody, and lastly, the Wild Wild West. Who are the major gun manufacturers in this country? Who are they? How is it they can continue to manufacture all these assault weapons, spread them on the street, and then Joe Dokes picks up one because he's afraid the boys up the street going to do something to him, and he opens up on them. Come on, where's the connection? They did this with the native people, whiskey and guns, and they turned on each other. We got drugs and guns, and we turn on each other. Put down the gun. Pick up the pen. Grab some of these books. Wrap your hands around these books. In 10 years, Grand Rapids could be an awesome, awesome place, and we could be an example for the world.
Right.
We don't need violence. Be violent in grabbing those books and see how many books you can go through in a month's time and how much you can pass along to your partners and the shorties behind you. We don't have to be the CD students. One year, I think we had all the valedictorians. People must have thought that was a bad thing, and it hasn't happened since. We came out of the shell for a moment. But gun rule? The gun doesn't rule. We don't have enough guns to rule anything. 6 policemen come down any street and squash anything that's going on.
Right.
One.
Yeah, one.
So all these bad actors with their pea shooters, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Smarten up.
Thank you so much. We got to hear from both sections of our panel there. All right, so let's move on to the third question. Now, there have been some efforts in the city to thwart some of the violence, and some have argued that this has helped, and then some have said that it's actually made it worse. Now, this question is posed to you, Commissioner Lumpkins. You've been instrumental in a lot of these efforts, so would you please share with us some of the strategies that have been used, and then tell us how effective you actually think they have been?
Thank you. I think there have been several efforts. There were a lot of efforts when I was growing up as a high school student at South High. A group of, I guess we called them Negroes or black at that time, they started an organization called Tawasi, which built upon the emphasis on athletics. They use athletics as a vehicle for getting young black men interested in education, and actually took us on trips to colleges to let us see what a prom was like, just creating situations where we could experience some things together, adult males with young boys. And a lot of those individuals were educators and business people. I think it was a pharmacist, one of the first black pharmacists in the city of Grand Rapids, Elmer Green, the late Dr. Franks, who died about 2 months ago. But they helped shape and help create some values and goals in the lives of young black men at that time. I know Talib's brother, Joe Drake, was in that group along with Sylvester Jones. Sylvester Jones is deceased, but Joe Drake is now Dr. Drake. And I think several PhDs came out of that, not just because of Tawasi, but because they gave some encouragement and some strokes to young men. Recently, and don't forget the fraternities and the sororities. There's a lot of activities taking place in those organizations to help shape young people, the Kappa League and so forth, coming out of Kappa Alpha Psi. There is a need for more parental and community involvement. I think if you step back and look at the statistics, I think the violence, the number of deaths in Grand Rapids have gone down over the past 2 or 3 years. There have been citywide activities that have taken place. There have been different training for the police department and for security officers for the Grand Rapids Public Schools. I can't get that ring out of here. But there is a need for more activities for young folks. There's a need for occupation or work opportunities. I think we have to reinstill in our young people. I think many of the things you've already touched upon, but education is key, it's crucial. Not only education about what's in the books, because everything is not in the books, but education about us as a people. Many years ago, you were successful in allowing slavery because you were able to dehumanize people. If you can dehumanize a person, if you can take away their individuality, then that person is no longer a person. If I know that this is Talib, this is my brother, I'm not going to pick up a weapon or try to do something to him. But if I can dehumanize him and take away his name and what he is, then I can justify some of the things I want to do to him. So I think we have to re-educate, we have to retrain, we have to provide opportunities, and we have to move the city forward. I was at a meeting today that was sponsored by the DeVos Foundation, and there are all kinds of foundations in the city, and fortunately they're beginning to get involved. They're beginning, they're beginning to become concerned, because if your educational system goes, you lose your workforce population. If we're not manufacturing or providing or adding value to anything, you can see what is happening around the United States. And some of these things were contrived, and some of the things people didn't see the bigger picture. Like, I think it was Martin Luther King said, if you dig a ditch for someone, you've got to get down in the ditch, and you've got to stay in the ditch to keep them there. And that's what we've been doing. We've been shipping away jobs. We've been lowering the income level of people. And now we're wondering why we're in it's a recession. It's not a depression yet. But if you're losing 2 or 10,000 jobs a month, we're in a depression.
All right, thank you. I would also like to remind the audience that if you do have a question or if you do want to comment on anything, to make sure that you write it on the card. And then what we'll do is, after we get through, I think we've only got one more question we need to get through anyway. And then we'll make sure to pose those questions to the panel. Just a reminder to everyone. So raise your hand, and then a member of the Black Student Union will give you a card to write your question legibly on so I can read it.
Right.
Would anybody else on the panel like to comment to any community programs that you might know about, maybe that people in the audience don't know about yet? Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
The United States is getting ready to do a census. They do a census every 10 years where they try to count the people in the country. And the people or the population of the country, of the states and so forth, determine what type of dollars, federal dollars, come from the city. So there is a website, I should have brought it here, but they're beginning to employ and hire census workers now. Salaries start around 10, go up to about 18 or 19, $20 an hour. But they're doing the testing and the recruitment now. So that's something that you might want to take a look at. I'm sure at the job placement office or possibly if you Google federal government or state government, you could get it. I should have brought the website. But that's a good paying job. Plus you're doing something, you're going to be in the community, you're going to be helping and encouraging folks to register so that you get an accurate count of the people living in Grand Rapids and Michigan. And it does affect the dollars that come to the state.
I believe that might be census.gov. The place is over on Hall Street, just next to Century. It's a big warehouse building. You enter off Hall Street is where you go for that. In fact, I'm trying to get over there myself. There is, I don't know where it's held, but there's a rites of passage program that Brother Willie Booker has been conducting for a long time in this town, and we need more of that. Has anybody here been through a rites of passage program? Besides me? It's a good thing. It teaches you about self-knowledge, self-awareness. It teaches you to identify your strengths and weaknesses and how to work on building your strengths. It teaches you a knowledge of your people, other people's, histories of the world, how people interact, how they should interact, how they can interact, and it helps build a sense of community because you become more self-confident and less likely to go off on your own kind. It works. Take it from somebody who had an atrocious temper. I was one of those step on my shoe kind of guys, and I went ballistic. And going through Black People's Free Store, that was the place, and a rite of passage and learning that this is my brother and this is my sister and I can't do anything to them that I don't want done to me. And that eventually I found out that included other human beings. It helped me. So rite of passage programs I think would be critical, especially for our young men, especially. And we got to do something with our young ladies. I'm hearing tragic stories about the conduct of our babies. We got to get busy. And rites of passage for females also works. We need study groups. Study together, plan together, work together, build a sense of community. And we can have one right here at CC. We can have one at Hall and Madison. We can have one at Bemis. We can have them all over the place where people can come together in a safe environment, exchange ideas, share, and try and grow together.
All right, thank you very much. So we've learned about a couple of the programs here that are available right here in the city, in our own city in Grand Rapids. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask any of our panel members that are here today. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. This was originally posed to one of our members who couldn't be here tonight due to some surgery. But what we'd like to ask, and maybe let's get some of the feedback from some of our younger folks on the panel, if you could speak to some experience of being part of the community and perhaps have experienced violence against maybe a family member or a friend. If you could speak to that, maybe perhaps how it made you feel or how it affected some of your friends or peers around you, if you could just shed a little bit of light on that.
Let me see. Well, me really, I was in high school around the time where, okay, like just after, like we used to have gangs, like I keep dropping this water, y'all. Okay, like the Vice Lords and the GDs, they came back for a little minute, like back in 94, 95. People was, wearing the colors or whatever, but it was mostly just like a superficial color thing. You get off the bus and do the handshake with them, and, you might wear your right pants leg up and your hat to the right and all that, but it wasn't nothing like, man, I die for this. It was never nothing like that. And after that, the guys in the city, they started coming together and getting money, if you know what that means or whatever. And so I kind of came up around that where, it wasn't no set tripping. It wasn't none of that. Everybody from wherever you were from Madison to Lafayette to Wealthy to Highland, Cass, Black Hills, everybody was dealing with everybody. And it was like really, unity, if that's what you want to call it. From my eyes, and I'm talking about this as a teenager, so we just really all into that lifestyle and everything. And so it started getting to the point where, some guys would have money and some guys wouldn't. And some guys would want that money. And so that's where the whole, like the Jack Boys and everything came along, where they gonna, jack you for your rims. This one, rims was new. People just started putting dubs, 20s and everything on there. So they come to get your rim, they ram, your rims and everything. Like I've seen people get their cars taken from two people pull up, two cars pull up, two people in the first car, one person hop out, kick that person out of his car, take his car, one person driving front, one person driving back. They just took dude's car, he's standing there. I've seen people get robbed. Me and my girl, we was with this guy she was dealing with. He got shot in the back, he paralyzed now. And just, thinking that somebody about to shoot you, so you don't want to look because you don't want to see their face, because you don't want them to be like, well, dang, she seen my face, so I'm going to have to do something to her, Or seeing somebody getting robbed, and the person that's doing it, just like, dang, straight up, you just really, and so, it's like, dang, do I live by this code? Do I, what do I do? I was really, really fortunate. And when I say really fortunate, I was, and it was only by the grace of God. And I'm not lying to y'all right now that I am where I am today. Because if it would have been up to me, I would still be, I'd still be taking trips and driving for people and doing, just that whole life, it's just so glamorous for some reason. And now that I'm in law school and I know that even blinking wrong can get you, it's just really that serious. And it's like, how could I jeopardize my life for people? And, you just think like, well, if these people were really my friends, or if they really cared about me, they wouldn't have asked me to do none of this stuff. They would have known, because I was the type, okay, yeah, we can go to Holland, we can go to Detroit, we can go here, but I gotta be in class tomorrow, So that's one thing I really, really stood firm on. And instead of them saying like, yo, baby girl, I see you trying to do the right thing, we ain't even gonna ask you to do nothing else, they didn't. And it wasn't even my decision. It was really like a long path how I got to where I am. But it was really by the grace of God. That's the only way I can sum it up. So, for y'all, and the people here, y'all, just your presence here speaks to some level of awareness, that you are aware of what goes on around you, and that at times you see that this is not gelling with you, that this is not what's up, this is not what I intended for my life. So I think, we need to be ever conscious of every moment, especially when we in the streets and we may be engaged in behavior or surrounded by people that are not conducive to us being where we want to be in life. I think we need to take those opportunities to kind of look to the future and say, okay, if I stay here, where am I gonna be? So.
Thank you so much, Latara. Do any of our other young folks on the panel want to give any response to that? Otherwise, we will move on.
Yeah, I'll say something real quick.
Thanks.
Like back to what she was saying, like as far as being involved in the streets and everything like that. I'm not the one to really be glorifying the streets and all that, but I'm around it every day. And to be honest with you, I don't like it because I see a lot of stuff go on that I really disagree with, and it's a lot of people that's close to me that's doing these things. But at the same time, I just try to spoon feed them to help them get their way out and convert over to doing some positive things. But it's funny because a lot of people, they enjoy this lifestyle and they want the light so bad that they willing to do anything and go to any measure just to get $1,000 here, to get a little gold chain or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's not that serious to the point to where you can't work and get it yourself. But it's kind of like it's a secret society because with this lifestyle, it's a lot that you have to put forth and put on the line, or you might get put in a situation that you don't want to be in, and you have to choose if you're gonna do this. If you choose, you're gonna have to do that. And you know how a lot of people in the hood, how they feel about the snitching and all of that. Just like, for example, my cousin, he got caught up in a situation, ended up getting 52 years for something he didn't even do, and just because he wouldn't tell who this person was, he knew everything that happened. He didn't gave his life up just on the strength of that, so if you don't have to get involved, you don't have to, in order to be cool with these people over here, you don't have to be involved in what they doing. Okay, you could be in school doing this, doing that, but at the same time, okay, that's my man's, he's selling drugs, he's selling weed, he doing this, he doing that. Okay, you could come by, chill with me for a minute, and be like, yo, I gotta go back home, get in the books, do what I gotta do. I got class in the morning. If they can't respect what you doing, then leave it alone. You can close your circle. You can still be cool with them at the end of the day, but you gotta think at the end of the day, it's for you. It's what you gotta do for yourself. So, I just pray and hope that, everybody around me and everybody in this room as well as whoever, just make the right decision, because that street life is not for you. It's not for nobody really, but some people born into it, and some people just addicted. It's like a drug, to be honest, because a lot of people addicted to it.
That's it.
It's like honestly, it's like a drug. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not saying I'm an angel or nothing like that. My daddy a pastor, but I'm still out here doing what I gotta do to survive, to make it, because I got a son, I gotta be there for mine, I gotta be there every day, see mine, whether I'm with the baby mama or not, I'm gonna be there for mine regardless of the situation, whatever. But on top of that, it take a real man to realize that he has a responsibility greater than himself, so that's how I put it. That's how I look at things.
Let me make a quick observation. Young folk, the game is not new.
At all.
The game doesn't change, just the players.
Right.
Game was not invented 5 years ago. Game was not invented 20 years ago or 40 years ago. Even though you look at these old folks as they square, they don't know what time it is, they ain't up on it, they ain't hip, they ain't down, we all experience game at some levels. Told you I came from the West Side. I'm a West Sider. I grew up with one foot in the street and the other in school, all the way through the university. I knew where all the after-hour joints were, all the rollers, all the players, all the knuckleheads. I was blessed that I saw a different vision, but a whole lot of my partners fell. They couldn't catch a new vision. It's a whole world out here. Don't let your world be 15 square blocks.
Mm-mm.
Anybody travel outside the U.S.? That is an awesome experience.
Keep doing it.
To
Next
see
time
how
y'all
other
go,
people
come.
live. There's a whole world out here for you. You're not confined to Madison Ave. And your mind doesn't have to be confined to that. And if you see somebody with some talent and you see them slipping the other way, grab hold to your brother, grab hold to your sister, pull them as best you can. Now, don't you get caught up. It's like trying to save a man who's drowning. Mm-hmm. Don't let him grab you around the neck and pull you under.
Right.
You grab him around his neck and pull him to the shore. And if he's fighting, then you gotta let him go. But give it your best shot. But remember, nothing new about gangs. Nothing new about gangs. We had the Yellow Jackets and the Teenage Rattlers when I was a teenager. You know, he mentioned my brother. My brother and his crew were part of the reason that Yellow Jackets didn't exist anymore. You know, so step up your game, work on being the best you can be.
Yep, that is true. The more things change, the more things stay exactly the same.
New players.
Everything is cycle.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to our fifth question, because the whole purpose of this evening is to come up with some actual strategies to do something, because a lot of times we sit around and we talk about what needs to change and what has happened in the past, but now we need to learn about some of the things that we can actually do to make a change. So for our last scripted question, what I'd like to do is ask each panelist, do you think that there's anything to be done about the violence in the city? Anything done that we can prevent it? And then also, what steps do you believe are necessary to take this action? And then what we'll be doing is we'll be recording your ideas to start the discussion for the question and answer from the audience. That'll be on the cards. And I would like to start out with you, Head.
What I think could be done to change what's going on, the violence and whatnot. It just takes the community as a people and as a whole to step up, you know what I'm saying, and take some kind of action. And also it's within yourself too as well. If you know something is wrong with this individual that you know is, you know what I'm saying, it's in your best interest or in your place as you being the kind-hearted person that you may be, or the person with a good head on top of their shoulders, you know, to be that person to point them in the right direction, you know. Because I deal, like I was saying before, I deal with a lot of people every day, and to the best of my advantage, I try to help out who I can and point them in that right direction to do some more positive things. So that's about all I had to say about that.
I heard three
All right,
things.
thanks,
She didn't bore them, but I heard three things. And correct me if I'm wrong. We need community action. Well, he said it. Meaning that.
The reason why I say that is because you hear a lot of the community needs to do this and that. I just wanted to get more specific solutions.
All right. We'll get to that. We'll break that down. He mentioned personal responsibility. And we'll talk about that. Abbreviate with the P. Okay. Shorten it. And being a guide to your friends. Be a guide, a big brother, a big sister, a guide. An example.
A guide, like TV guide.
Mm-hmm.
Being
GUIDE.
a guide.
Direct, encourage, mentor.
Okay.
All right, and
Was
then
that
next.
it?
Yeah.
All right, and then next, Robert, maybe if you could give us take about what could be done to prevent violence in the city, really overall.
I mean, basically, you knocked it over the head, because anything that you could say is going to fall under one of them categories. And I mean, the biggest one is probably just personally, you know what I'm saying? Got to be within yourself. I mean, as far as you speaking realistic things you can do, I mean, other than that, the only thing I could say was, you know, every day there ain't no violence, somebody get paid. You know what I mean? You know, for real though.
But see,
for real.
right, I understand. Cause see, I understand everybody, you know, can't go to community meetings and be involved in the community like they would like to, and that's why I said that being that individual, you know what I'm saying, that guy. If you know something going on, you know what I'm saying, with this person, and you can prevent it, because let one of your people, somebody close to you, leave this room today and they got an issue, and you know what's going on, and you know it's a possibility that you could change it, and then you get home tonight, watch the news, and that person got killed or they died or anything, you're going to feel bad, you know what I'm saying, about that, especially if you could have prevented it. So, you know what I'm saying, you can save yourself some hassle, and, you know what I'm saying, and just keep it moving like that.
But it's like they say, you can't help nobody who don't
Right.
want to help themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But like he said, if they want to fight, you know, let them fight. Let them fight.
All right, Lataro, do you have any take on that? What can be done to prevent some of the violence in our city, and do you think that there's any specific steps that we could take to make this action?
Okay, well, I got a theory. I'm always coming up with theories. And it's kind of off the wall, so I'm going to say that for last. But some steps. First, I think we need to be accountable as people. We need to quit saying somebody owe us some reparations or 40 acres and a mule or whatever it is, because you're not going to get it ever, ever, ever. So I think we need to take care of ourselves. I think we need to build each other up as a people. And I think we need to quit looking for validation from outside, and that needs to come from inside. Also, I think just as a community, we need more stuff for young people to do, because there's nothing for them to do. I mean, I see kids hanging out at the transit center, and I'm like, dang, the police all down here. I wouldn't dare be hanging out around the police. You know, I mean, I love my law enforcement. We need them. We definitely do. But I just can't see myself just hanging out with them, like right there. Right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying something pop off or go wrong. They not gonna ask no questions. They just gonna point and arrest people. You know, I just don't understand how people hang out at the transit center like that. I think we need to take responsibility. Like with the whole stop snitching thing, people don't even know what snitching is.
Right.
They think if a crime happened and somebody tell, that's snitching. That's not snitching. Snitching is when you give somebody up to make it better for yourself. People don't even understand what snitching is. So you got babies and stuff getting killed, and people scared to say stuff because they don't want to be a snitch. Forget that. You don't let nobody think that it's okay with you to do some crazy stuff. Make your neighborhood more dangerous. Make it worse. Police, it be on fire, hot. Can't nobody even walk. Excuse me. Oh, okay. I'm just. Oh yeah. So I'm just basically. Yeah. So I'm just basically saying something and then just like giving my lawyers. Yeah. So okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Lataro.
And I mean, you got to take responsibility. Don't let nobody think, we can steal this stereo out this car. He ain't gonna tell. She ain't gonna tell. Like, why? If somebody comes steal your mama stereo out her car, you gonna want them to get caught or get in trouble. So why wouldn't you tell? So now my theory. Don't write this down. My theory is this, ladies. I feel like if the ladies get their stuff together, then the fellas gonna get their stuff together. That's just what I believe, I mean, I really feel like if us as ladies, if we step up, if we do what we need to do, if we take care of business, if we, carry ourselves like ladies, then, the fella's gonna be like, well, dang, she don't like dudes that wear their pants all hanging out. I'm gonna have to pull my pants up. Or, dang, she be in school every day. If I want to see her, I gotta go to school.
Right?
Or, because, that's just how it works, ladies.
Hey, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that one.
But it's just a theory. I don't know. But I mean, why don't y'all help me? My friends always telling me I should be a sociologist because I'm always coming up with these little experiments like, dang, I bet you if we do this, then it's gonna happen. So, ladies, that's y'all test out there. Let's get our stuff together and see if we can't get the fellas to follow suit. So that's it for me.
Cause y'all know the fellas gonna follow wherever the ladies go.
Right. Thank you. Right. One more thing, if you could add on the board, is maybe more community activities, because I heard LaCarl say about more things available for kids in the community to do.
Yeah.
Because obviously, the more you have to do, the less you will get into on your own.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, and then Elder El-Amin, let's move on to you.
Remember I said there's nothing new? Your theory is not new.
Well, then we need to put
when I was your age, the same thing applied. The ladies made us act like gentlemen.
It's more extreme now.
Right. But it's the same game.
Right, it's the same thing.
We had thugs. That's what I said earlier. Our babies, our little girls. We need rites of passage for our little girls because they're victims of what they've seen, videos, a lot of them. I've seen my great nieces watching and then acting out stuff. So I speak as a scientist, someone who's observed and studied this kind of thing. So nothing new. I have to disagree with the sister in terms of the whole reparations issue. As an attorney, if she studies it deeper, I think you're going to find that in the world community, there is a thing called reparations. If you're a student of history at all, you know that the United States has paid reparations to many groups of people for actions they've taken against people that the world court deems to be uncivil. I can go down and name various native groups. The Alaskans got millions of acres back, plus money, land reparations. The state of Israel has been getting reparations from the United States and Great Britain since its inception. And when Germany, when they tore down the wall between East and West Germany, the way East Germany got into the European community, they had to agree to pay reparations to the Zionists who had moved on to Israel for what they had done. So reparations should never be taken off the table because they're due for what has happened to people of African descent in America.
Can I follow up on that?
Not yet.
Okay. Well,
But when I finish,
because I didn't know that you were going to rebut. I didn't know that it was going to be.
well, it wasn't a rebut. It was part of my remarks. But you threw it out there. We had this discussion earlier.
No, not this. But
Reparations we did. You never take that off the table because it's owed. An apology is owed, and reparations deemed and determined by both parties, especially the offended party, is how it works. This is not something we concocted. You owe me, and give me my money. No, that's the way the world court has decided, and we're part of the world court. And we've paid reparations to people around the world. So never take it off the table. Secondly, we've got to work on teaching people to go within and work on themselves. And we started down here. We started with our babies. We've missed 2 generations. People don't have a knowledge of self. So we got a lot of work to do. Your parents, your crew, your grandparents, and the shorties behind you. We have to work and teach individual self-responsibility. When I was a teenager, they had 4 prisons in Michigan that I knew about. When I hit 55, there were 50 in Michigan. So a lot of our fathers, uncles, grandfathers haven't seen the light of day or won't see the light of day, brothers and sisters, for a long time. So we got to teach self-responsibility and teach them there's another way to get paid other than slinging and peddling poison to their mothers and somebody else's mother and somebody's uncle and grandfather. We need to become entrepreneurs. We need to develop entrepreneurial institutes that can teach sharp young brothers and sisters how to build businesses and create jobs. The unemployment rate amongst young black males is somewhere around 40-50%. Who's got those many jobs for you? For us? Nobody. The overall rate is approaching double digits. So there aren't jobs. We got to become job creators. And everybody wearing a hoodie or a jacket or gym shoes, somebody made that. Somebody shipped that. Somebody distributed that. Somebody wholesaled that. Somebody retailed that. And we can get in every one of those streams and become job creators. If you become job creators now, then young people won't have to steal and sling drugs to get paid because they'll have money and they'll understand the way of work and they'll know how to build a sense of community and rebuild a community, rebuild the inner city. We won't have to rely on some outsiders to rebuild where we live. I live there. So self-responsibility.
All right, thank you so much, Elder El-Amin. And Commissioner Lumpkins, if you could just give us a couple points. Sorry, we got to be pretty brief because we need to move on to audience Q&A.
And then let her
No, you know what? My one thing is with reparations, to the point where people let it stop them from taking care of business every day because they're waiting on whatever. And with regard to the World Court, UN, all of that stuff that the United States is a member of, yeah, we're a member of it, but whenever they create a resolution or come up with something, we never follow it because we're the United States. We're the great superpower. We don't have to do what these different international criminal courts. And not only that, but United States has a history with just dark-skinned people, period, that I just don't think that if you waiting on reparations before you decide what you're going to do with your life, I think you just need to go ahead and do what you're going to do and get where you're trying to be. And then maybe eventually we can all come together and get reparations. That's when I spoke on reparations, 40 acres and a mule. I was speaking as far as if you are saying, well, the reason I don't want to do this is because they still owe me this or they still owe me an apology. And I'm saying, go do what you got to do, because I don't feel like it's coming anytime soon. So that's all I want to follow up with.
Not man person generation sitting in here.
Oh, he just
No, I'm saying the reparations, people always been talking about.
No, they haven't.
My grandparents ain't seen it.
They haven't always been talking
Well,
about it.
I'm
Excuse me
saying-
for cutting you
No,
off,
I'm not
but they
saying
haven't
they've
always
been
been talking about
But
it.
for the fact that people think that they owe this reparations, and for all these generations down, ain't nobody seen nothing.
Right.
Then can't nobody, at least my age, sit here and say that the reason I'm not doing this is because I'm expecting this, and just because Dave Chappelle put it on that we got our reparations.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Can I talk,
That's
teacher?
not-
Can
Yeah.
I talk?
I don't think
I
that's-
really want to move
No.
on from the subject because this is something
We'll talk about
totally
this afterwards
different
because
than
the
community
issue is
violence.
more expansive
Yeah,
than a Dave Chappelle.
Yeah,
Trust me,
that's-
trust me.
that's an
I've been studying it for 40 years.
You know what I mean?
Let's talk
yeah,
afterwards.
See, I didn't know that
Let's
he
talk
was gonna follow
afterwards.
me up
Yeah.
like that. So
Let's
you know,
table this
Because
one
I
for
mentioned
after the
internal
discussion,
reparations.
please.
That's when we work on ourselves and we do something for ourselves. That's the internal. But you don't take the external off the table, is all I'm saying.
Can we say multitasking? We should be able to deal with issues on several levels, and reparations is just one strategy. And there, as you said, there are a lot of historical ramifications of it. I wanted to say that I still think education is key, and I think most of the panelists touched upon that. We've got to continue to have those educational opportunities and equity. That's why our public schools are so important, because you have charter schools, you have private schools, etc. I think you as individuals, and including myself, we have to be lifelong learners. We have to continue to learn. And if you read the Grand Rapids Times, they are not dealing just with historical heroes. They are dealing with heroes who are right here in Grand Rapids. And it's not just a coincidence that 3 of the people featured in the first edition are employees here at Grand Rapids Community College. And I'll leave this, if you haven't seen it, I'll leave this with you. But we have to continue to read and learn. We have to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there for us. And you, I'm talking to you as young folk, you have to reach back to those babies that El-Amin has been talking about. And you have to instill in them that they have responsibilities to themselves, to their families, to their loved ones, and in the larger community. You mentioned economic development. We have to do that. We have to be entrepreneurs. And here at Grand Rapids Community College, you have a lot of student organizations. But I think there's a requirement for graduation, if I'm not mistaken, for community service. Is that still correct, Liz? And I could just visualize the Black Student Union, the international student organizations coming together to do some projects and encouraging students who are already here to work together. El-Amin has taught classes here. He has done rites of passage. He is well connected. He's a retired business person. He's a historian. He has all types of skills. I encourage you to come together and try to bring him on campus, involve him in some of the things that you're doing. He's a great planner, strategic planner. And respect our seniors. There's a lot of respect, a lot of violence against senior citizens, so we have to do something about that. And you can start with you. A couple people, it starts with you and then it goes outward, so you can change the world. And then he mentioned the drastic increase in prisons. Due to the budget situation, thousands of people will be released from the prisons back into our community. And they will come with some of the attitudes and some of the diseases and some of the behavior that got them in prison. But because they were in prison, Many of them are discriminated against. They can't get a job. They can't support their families, so they go back into the cycle of crime, and they go right back to the prisons. So these are things that the city of Grand Rapids and the state of Michigan have to gear themselves up for and try to do some things to assist those criminals. And bear in mind, there are a lot of innocent folks in prison also. So we have to do something about that.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Lumpkins. So just to recap some of the things that we've got on the board there, I'll just let you guys go ahead and read those in the interest of time. And at this time, what we'd like to do is we'd like to address the panel with some of the questions from our community here in the audience. And again, I'd just like to remind everybody, if I don't get to your question, I apologize. In the interest of time, we're trying to wrap this up about 8:10 or so. So in order to give everybody to get a chance to have their question asked and have the panel to answer, we might not have time for everything. So we'll see. And I also want to remind everybody that these strategies that we have here on the board and also what comes out of the rest of this discussion, these will be given to Commissioner Lumpkins and also be to the mayor, hopefully in order that some of these strategies will actually be implemented here in our city. And I also want to remind you all that following this portion of our session, we'll all be directed to another room for some refreshments. So, all right, to start out with the first question. What someone asked for, and this is for you, Elder El-Amin, someone asked for contact information for the rites of passage. If you have it, if you'd like to go ahead and say that, or maybe we can get that after this discussion. Do you have any of that information available now?
Willie Booker, I believe he attends Messiah Baptist, has a program that he's been running about 15, 20 years. I am attempting to restart one that I have, but Willie Booker at Messiah Baptist. My contact information, El-Amin@yahoo.com.
All right.
Hit me up.
So that's at Messiah Baptist. Willie Booker was the original contact, and it looks like now you'll be that contact.
Yeah, I'm going to reestablish one of the programs that I've done too.
Okay, so that's El-Amin.com, and if there's any more information we want to get on that, we can get that during the reception time. So let's move on to the next question. And this is actually a little bit less of a question, but more of some info just to share that we talked about the U.S. Census, some of those jobs that will be available earlier. Someone in the audience did give us a little bit more information on that to let us know that the website is uscensus.gov. And also one of the stipulations is that they do not hire felons, so just throwing that out there. And also one of the other good programs, Habitat for Humanity, someone here in the audience brought that up, that this particular person looks like went to Jamaica and that they were blessed to see that poverty in America is actually almost considered 90210 compared to what's going on in the rest of the world. So that does give us a little bit of perspective, because sometimes we think some of the things that we have to deal with here are pretty rough, but we should shed some light, on some of the things that people go through in the third world are far more severe than what we actually have to deal with here. So I'd like to move on to the next question beyond that, and that is, how can you save someone that you care about that is deep in the game but is very arrogant, and how to try to get them to see the light and actually get out of that? So maybe one of the younger folks on our panel can speak to that, since sometimes these are actually our friends that have to deal with these situations.
It ain't no hope, man. You fall till you fall.
This all on my.
Let's be positive.
I'm gonna be positive, man. The only thing you can do is pray for that person. That's it. That's it. If they not listening to you and you showing them, and it's right in front of their face, and they still don't, that's all you can do is pray for them. Unless you got some money to move them out of town somewhere.
Right. Buy them out they deal.
And start them all over or something. That is a wrap.
One of the things I did, I told my partners when I was extricating myself from the game, I'm not coming to the penitentiary to see you. I went once to see one. He went back. I didn't go. I went again to see one. He went back. I didn't go. One of them never did come up out of there walking. So let them know. Home, I want you out here. Me and you, we can do a whole lot of things. Appeal to that if they still have it. that sense of conscience in them that hopefully their mother or granny put in them. And if they ain't willing, back up and let them know. I'll pray for you. And go on and be about your business and find somebody else you can help.
Right.
Try, but don't get caught up.
Right.
Yep, that is true. So we've all come to the same consensus on both ends of the panel that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't
nothing
make him
changes.
drink.
The game stays the same.
Yep.
Right.
All right, so I'd like to move on to the next question here. And this says, as a person from the outside looking in, I have been told by different gang members and ex-gang members that the original intent of gangs was to protect their community from the corruption of the police. What is your view on this? Could someone please comment on that?
That's all I'm gonna say.
It depends on it depends on what kind of gangs that you're talking about, because I mean the gangs there are like some real gangs.
I was gonna say, let's talk about gangs outside.
Okay, yeah, outside
no
of
gangs.
Grand Rapids. Yeah, it ain't no gangs in Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids,
so.
these not gangs, man. I don't know what these do.
They just need something to do. They need something constructive to do. I mean, it's not a gang so much as it is a group of people around the same age that live in the same neighborhood that like the same things. You know, that's not a gang. But that was not as far as I understand it, from like Chicago and LA. When I think of the beginning of gangs, that's not how they started. They came out of that whole the whole civil rights movement and everything, as far as, you know, getting together and, you know, black power and all of that, you know, like the self-awareness and, you know, I am black, and just because I'm black, that doesn't mean that I'm an inferior person. But two, gangs have always had a criminal element to it, as far as amassing money and getting members. And two, their members came from kids with their members, they got them basically kids with no direction. And it just really, really hurts my heart to see 30 and 40-year-old guys, 30, 40-year-old people you would think got something else better to do, with 12 and 13-year-olds like leading them down this path. I mean, I just never did understand that, you know. So I think really gangs, as far as like outside of Grand Rapids, came from older guys, you know, miserable. You'd be surprised. Misery makes people do a lot of bad things, and it makes them involve a lot of people that shouldn't be involved, because everyone, you know, you got miserable people, but they're really strong mentally, and they're very manipulative, and they can say what this young person needs to hear. This young person who, when they go home, nobody's ever there. These latchkey kids, these kids who can't afford the shoes. And so if you get down with these guys, you can get you some shoes, or you can have you whatever these kids got, you know. So from my understanding, gangs have always had like that criminal element to them. I mean,
let me say this real quick though. It's like, I'm not gonna say it wasn't intended for that, you know what I'm saying, for protection of the community from the police or whatever the case may be, but like now it's no, if it was intended for that, nowadays it's no structure, no discipline, and none of that involved with a gang, you know. So that's all I could pretty much say about that, because like around here, it's not no gangs, it's just a lot of stupid people representing streets, man.
Couple things. Gangs didn't start in LA and Chicago. East Coast. You ever heard of Mafia? That's a gang. The Purple Gang, Al Capone and them.
Right.
Those were mobsters. They were gangs. Gangs been around long before we even thought about gangs. Even before we were in the cities, they had gangs. When the Italians came over, they formed coalitions and they established gangs. The Irish, they established gangs. So gang, if you just Google gangs, and you'll know that it didn't start in the inner cities. Long before that. And they were used as criminal enterprise. In fact, some of the most famous families in America made their money through illegal activity, illegal alcohol and things like that, through their gangs. So we just started. Secondly, the gangs that were formed in the inner cities, to my knowledge, were not necessarily to protect against the police, because they never confronted the police. I have yet to see a gang stand down the police. The police aren't just the police officers you see. There's the city, there's the county, there's the state, there's the National Guard, and there are the military. So no gang can stand up to the police because they've got reinforcements. The gangs feed off of people, weaker people in their neighborhoods. So it's not a protection thing. And during the Black Power days, we didn't form gangs. We formed groups to stop police brutality, to feed children who weren't being fed. Black Panthers, people look at Panthers and see shotguns and say, oh, they were violent. The police in Oakland were very violent against the people, and it was legal to carry shotguns to defend you. Well, yeah, we just saw what happened in Oakland. So, and they had breakfast programs to feed children, so they weren't gangs. No, the gangs are the thugs that go around slinging drugs and feeding off our people in the neighborhoods, and that wasn't to protect anything. They're vipers.
All right, thank you so much for our input there from the panel. There's actually two questions that I'm going to kind of lump the two together because they're very similar, and I'd like to pose this to you, Commissioner Lumpkins. One is, why is it so hard to bounce back from the justice system? And the other one is very similar to that. It says, how can we help young men and women that are in some of these detention facilities to be able to turn their lives around when they actually get out?
One of the reasons is because we're a very vindictive society. We believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and things of that nature. And if we were a forgiving nation, or city in this case, when a person went to prison and paid their dues and served their sentence and was released to society, back to society, we would be stepping forward to try to assist that person to keep them from going back into that vicious cycle of recidivism. In terms of saving the people from, young people especially, from that justice system, and a lot of people say it's just us who are in the system. We have to reach the young people at an earlier age and keep them from going into the criminal justice system. Once they get in, it's very difficult to get out. So if we can instill values and respect for human life and individuals and pride in themselves, and if they know their history, if they know that they've been mathematicians and doctors and lawyers, despite laws being in place to keep them from learning, if they know this at the beginning, we can begin to turn that behavior around, and they don't go into the juvenile court. There are some projects that are coming online now. They are being studied. I mentioned DeVos Foundation a few minutes ago. They have done a study on Grand Rapids gangs, and they've been successful in getting the police department, the prosecutor, and other people in the law enforcement area at the table. So now we're beginning to admit and acknowledge that there are gangs in Grand Rapids. They might not be at the level of some of the other gangs that we think about, but they are beginning to talk to each other about it, and they're trying to identify strategies that would be helpful to them. I would like to encourage you, before you leave tonight, if you have an interest in working on some of these ideas that were put up on the board, if you would leave me your name, your phone number, or your email address, so that when we begin to talk to people, because they're doing focus groups now, and I think young people should be at the table while you're discussing and planning for young folk. I think there are a lot of opportunities in the city, but I think they will increase. I think the stimulus package that they're talking about shovels in the ground, about putting people to work. I think it's important to put young people to work also. Give them some options.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner Lumpkins. Now the next question that I would like to ask is, it actually sort of touches on some of the points that we have here on the board about our actual intervention strategy, so actually doing something other than some of the discussion, that we have from time to time. And that question is, what are more solutions that could be effective immediately? What could some of those be that can prepare our youth for this summer here coming up in 2009? So if there's anything specific that you know of, any specific community programs, that you would like to shed light on, or even just anything, in particular, some activity maybe that you'd like to point some of the youth toward. What are some of those things, and how can we help prepare them?
Can I was just sitting here thinking about this because I got a niece. She's 15 years old, and last summer she worked with Project Cool. I think you might have to be in high school to work with them, so if any of you guys are in high school, you might want to check into that. But go on a college tour, like a black college tour, and you can organize that yourselves. I don't know if you guys drive, or maybe you can get together with some of your friends and talk to your parents, or even take it to some people at your church. But I think the main thing is, it's a lot of young people in Grand Rapids, they never get out of Grand Rapids. They never go out of Michigan. And I think that's the key. That is really what gave me, excuse me, the respect for the world that I have. You got to get out. You got to see how other people live in. You got to have something to aspire to. You got to, that diversity in life, it's like once you get bitten by that, it's going to be forever. And Grand Rapids people are so unique. I've been a lot of places in this world, and everywhere I go, they always say, like, man, you sure you not from here? Like, Grand Rapids, it's like a big city, but it's like a small town, so we can be more versatile, where we can go to a big city and still, get it in and not be scared, how some people are, and we can still go to a small town too and appreciate that. So I think we need to kind of play off of that, everything happens for a reason, and you are in this city for a reason. Circumstances are such, maybe to foster something within us to go out and explore more. Maybe this city, or maybe the circumstances in this city are designed to make us uncomfortable and to not let us get comfortable with our situation, so that we can go out in this world and see what's going on, bring that back to Grand Rapids and apply it here. So I'll just encourage you guys to get out of Grand Rapids this summer. I don't care what you got to do. If you got cousins in Muskegon or somebody somewhere, just go somewhere. Because when you sit around here, what's the saying? Idle hands.
Devil's workshop.
Yeah, there you go. And basically, it's just, and if you just sitting there, you come up with all kind of crazy ideas when you just sitting there, ain't got nothing else to do. And that's how most people end up in the how you get, man, I don't know, man, I don't even know, and you really don't know, so just get out of town, do something, anything.
That is true. And does anybody know of any specific, I don't know if there's any specific programs that can maybe help some of the youth maybe engage in some of these activities that don't have the funds available to do that? I don't know if either of the last two members on our panel can speak to any of that.
She mentioned Project Cool,
Okay.
which the city of Grand Rapids is involved with. They provide some funds, I think about $10,000 or $20,000 per summer for young folks to work. Not only do the young people get an opportunity to work about 20 hours a week, but they have a seminar every Friday where they're getting career tips and things that will enable them to not only get a job, but to continue and retain that job. I think the mayor at his State of the City address talked a little bit about trying to create some jobs for young people in the city. And matter of fact, he made an appeal afterwards. I think he called it neighbor to neighbor. And he asked people if they had a few dollars in their pocket to make donations towards neighbor to neighbor. And I think he announced at the city commission meeting Tuesday that they raised almost $5,000 just on that appeal. And I think there are a couple of companies that will be trying to provide funds as well as job opportunities. You're probably familiar with Roosevelt Tillman, who's done an awful lot to raise funds for the city to keep the swimming pools open. And he made a 3-year commitment. He's just completed the 2nd year. But a lot of people have stepped to the plate and made donations for that. But there are also job opportunities there. During these months, you could be getting your Lifesavers badge. You could be putting your resume together so that you could work in the park as a playground leader or maybe a recreational leader. There are a lot of jobs in the city of Grand Rapids that you can take advantage of. And we're also working on a project trying to get more internships for students to expose you to different work environments and opportunities that are there.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner.
I just thought of another one. I know like Floyd just gave the Golden Gloves a whole bunch of money, and they just got a new executive director and everything. So if y'all know some young kids that are always bullying and picking on people, maybe you can take them down to the Golden Gloves and let them, give them an outlet for that energy.
Apply that energy.
Yeah, and I think because we don't have a lot of activities, we gotta really be proactive, and we gotta, you got a little cousin. Every time you come over, you crowd around them and make them dance or sing or something. Take them somewhere, and Parks and Rec, local neighborhood association. You be surprised the programs that they got going on. If you just stop in there and ask them, I got, kids around me this age, what do you have for them? Just check those things out. Start with your neighborhood association and the Parks and Rec department. They can usually get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, that is
I'd like
true.
to say something on it. In addition, if we're talking about physical activity like that, I would highly suggest, some form of martial arts. The martial art, it allows one to think violently, but it teaches you not to act violently.
And discipline.
And it's great self-discipline. Remember I told you about this wild temper I had? The martial arts calmed me down to where I was able to work in Manistee, Michigan, Petoskey, Michigan, and sometimes being the only brother in the whole town, and never had problems. It calms a person down. It gives you self-confidence. You know you can do what you can do, but you don't have to go around threatening people with what you're going to do to them. And boxers tend to be boisterous and bullies, the ones that I've known, including my big brother, who was a great one. So martial arts are great, and it's cheap. It's very cheap.
Get a workshop, martial arts workshop service in the GRCS, maybe at Ottawa Hills or something like that, where we can get martial arts demonstration.
Absolutely. I have a cousin that's
Let's add martial arts to the strategy board, please. Martial arts and strategy board.
Our board person. Yeah, I have a cousin that's I think third, fourth degree black belt here, and he.
Demonstrations in the schools, and they can realize how cool it is, and it's not just something that somebody's talking about, that it actually has purpose.
Absolutely.
That is
We
true.
can do that.
All right, thank you.
You were supposed to put that on the card, man.
Everyone. Thank you, everybody.
It's an instructor for Taekwondo who actually runs his program through the public schools. He goes to, there's 2 public schools that he goes to. You can pay like $10, $20, and you go. You either go on 2 days a week to go to school, or just go to one.
Who is he?
Taekwondo instructor. My little brother used to go there. I don't know.
Okay, well Eddie Grover is one. Taekwondo, that was my style too.
Okay, so we got a couple names, and there's always Google, so we can always look it up on there. There's actually plenty of people here in the city. And I would like to move on, and first of all, I'd like to thank the audience for all their participation so far. And at this time, what we want to do is open up this last question to the audience, and it's one that we've sort of already asked our panel, but we want to open it up to you all. And that is, do you think there's anything that can be done to prevent violence in our city, and what are those necessary steps to actually make that happen? And there's someone who has a mic, yeah.
Thank you for this program. This is really terrific, and I have to say that I think it's really awesome that all you guys are in school. One thing I have to say is, I've heard this a couple of times tonight, that people, you on the panel, feel as though the lack of parental presence is a big issue. And I have to tell you, coming from the position of a working mom that was divorced and had 2 kids, you're between a rock and a hard place. And I'm not going to say that I didn't make mistakes, but I lost a child. Not she's with me, but I mean she went down the wrong path. And it was really hard, and I didn't even know it was happening, because to me she was presenting a different She was showing me what I wanted to see. And what I'm looking at here is we're talking about what can we actually do. You guys who are in school, you have it together. Now, one thing, oh yes you do, come on. But here's the thing, you all made it. You all made it. You're in school, and you are shining examples for young kids. And I think that maybe one of the things that you could do is to help those people who have to work, who aren't at home, who want to be at home, who are torn up with guilt because they're not at home and worrying about their kids. And maybe that's something that the Black Student Union can grab onto, is to go into the community and work with kids. Do something after school, go to these after school programs with the kids, because you know it. It's a human dynamic that a little person will look up at a big person and just, how cool is this person? You can really have an impact on the lives of young people just coming up and show them what they can be. And you were talking before about leaving Grand Rapids. These kids don't have that ability yet, but that kind of takes them out of their own little world and shows them what's available. At the same time, you're helping parents who don't have enough of themselves to go around. That's just a suggestion.
That is true. Actually, I don't know what you're writing on the board because I'm blind and I can't see. But I just wanted to add what you want to write on the board, like some college student involvement within the community, because most of us
schools,
have
reach out.
Yeah, we've all grown up in the community and then went to college, and I guess now it's our time to give back. We always talk about older people giving back, but it's really up to us too.
Truly, if you're in school, you're sort of the fortunate ones, the ones who have semi-escaped. You've got a respite. You've got a chance, an opportunity to do something different than those who are not exposed to this quote-unquote higher education or these additional opportunities in life. It's up to you to be that beacon. If home could do it, I know I can. He's no better than me. She's no better than me. So be that example. Be that example. And never, never, ever disconnect from your community. Never. When you get rich in fame, you don't have to go to Cascade. We got some homes over there in Heritage Hill for you, right in the middle of the hood. Right. Big as you want them. Right. I know. Been there 40 years. Come on. Be there and be an example. Yes, ma'am. She's stretching.
All right. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to comment on that last question about if there's anything specific that you think could be done to...
Where's the microphone?
Right there. Am I that short? Dre, right in front.
You have the mic? Oh, okay. I didn't. Sorry.
I told you you can't see.
I didn't realize you had the mic.
I might need to stand up. I feel children, just not even children, teens, we really can't look to our parents because we just automatically, that's, know what I'm saying, the head up, they're going to look down on us, they're going to tell us what we need to do. We need to have more middle-aged people active in that, because they can cope with it better. You know what I'm saying? I can, somebody that I got problems asking about a woman, I ain't gonna go to somebody my granny age to go holler at her about that. I'd rather have somebody who done been there like about the same time I have, who probably can give me a better answer and more relevant to my situation.
All right, and that kind of goes to speak a little bit to what we were just talking about on the board there about our... The
game don't change. You need to...
Your granny was really a teenager.
It really doesn't. It's the same stuff. Same thing, different days.
Yeah, they save you from wasting a lot of time because they've been there and they don't waste it all the time and they don't win, so they know how to get you straight right there where you're trying to be. So you better.
And that is true, but you do bring up a valid point though, because a lot of times it's not the message itself, but it's who the message actually comes from.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking to somebody about a certain
from somebody
situation.
that's at least close to your age, you know, than maybe you can from somebody that's 40 years older than you.
Mentor group. You guys the shorties right behind you is your job. You go to the elders for that additional wisdom, and then you take it to the shorties
and apply it. Yeah.
That's where the connection comes. Most of the young folk will look at me, oh, Gramps, please. But somebody 40 may be able to hear what I'm saying and can tell the 20-something, who can tell the 15s and the 10s. We've
All right,
been
is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment on that? If there's any specific things that you think that we could do in our community to avoid some of the violence that happens?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that claim they're the product of their environment. That's where I totally disagree. I think my environment is a product of me, and I create my own surroundings, no matter what other people are doing around me. But as far as younger people or either students in the same age range as I am, I think there should be more, not leadership, but like role models, like a big brother type of campaign or something like that going around the schools or just in the community, so where younger kids could actually have somebody that's in their age group or knows what they're actually talking about and can actually offer some advice that's relevant to them, and maybe they'll feel more comfortable with that. So I think the community should just promote more of the big sister, big brother programs and role model activities and stuff like that.
So once again, we're hearing sort of an echo of the same thing, Sarah Hill, the advisor for the Black Student Union, about some of our college students, or even some of us, who have graduated from college, to be able to pitch in a little bit and give something back to the community. So is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment on that? Go ahead.
One of my thoughts, or one of the things I thought worked well, at least is what I've noticed, is listening, even to young kids that are like 9, 8, 10 years old. A lot of times they're going through things and we're thinking they're kids and they don't have a lot to say and we want to do all the talking, but I think a lot of times it takes us to be a listening ear to find out what the kids are going through, so we can advise them and can encourage them to go another way, because a lot of our kids that are 8, 9 years old, they're coming out of homes that, where the parents are dealing drugs or the sisters messing around and they got a brother in prison and they're in and out, so this is the only life that they know. And sometimes when we talk to them, they'll find a different way. That's the only thing they see. But if we talk and listen instead of doing all the talking, and they're hearing all this, but this isn't real to them, but creating dialogue with the kids and communication back and forth and letting them do the talking, sometimes we can find out that there's some help needed there. But if we're just doing all the talking and not listening, we don't know who needs the help. So I just thought maybe that's one of the things that might be helpful.
That is true, and it looks like one of the biggest things we can take away from this evening is community involvement from all ages. And I'm sorry, but we're going to have to move along for now, and I'd like to thank everybody for their contribution tonight. You've all been a very great audience. Right now I'd like to turn the microphone over to Ms. Sarah Hill, the Black Student Union advisor. Thank you.
Okay, for those of you who did have your hands up, Johanna, I saw your hand. Commissioner Lumpkins, I did see your hand. Please make sure that you see Jackie Ross, our secretary, so that she can write down the intervention strategy. We are going to type these up and submit them to Commissioner Lumpkins as well as to the mayor, so that we can kind of get some things started from the grassroots from the conversation we had here today. As our moderator said, a lot of times we do a lot of talking, but we don't come up with solutions. So while we're on that subject, if anyone here is willing to work on some of the strategies that we spoke about or that were written on the board, Commissioner Lumpkins has given us a sign-up sheet. We'll make sure that it's at the post-reception, so that while you all are eating and enjoying that good food we have for you, that you can sign up, and I know him and he will follow up with you. So I'd just like to say thank you for everyone who made this event possible. Most importantly, our selfless panelists, thank you all for being here. Please give them a round of applause. And thank you for volunteering your time. And then I'd like to thank everyone who showed up to help make this event a success. Thank you so much for coming. And mostly I want to thank each one of you who has a vested interest in the community and the well-being of the community. A lot of people talk the talk, but when it's time to walk it, where are they? So I do want to thank you, and I want to encourage you all during this time of change to do as Dr. Mahatma Gandhi said, and be the change that you're waiting for. one of our panelists spoke to us waiting for somebody else or waiting for the right time to do things, and the right time never comes. It's never a perfect time. So please go out and be the change that you're waiting for. Before we dismiss to go to the post-reception, there are a few things I'd like to cover real quickly. Ms. B.J. Holmes, will you please stand up? Please do not forget to patronize our own local author, Mrs. B.J. Holmes, as she tries to educate our youth about community violence. She has written 2 books and is working on her 3rd. They are books for 10 years old and up about community violence and coping and dealing with that. And she will also be present February 19th during our Black Author book signing and reading. Second, as you are leaving, some of the members of the Black Student Union will be at the door. One will be taking your wonderful evaluation that please, we'd like you to fill out. If you need pens, we have them. And the other one will be handing out a resource page. We talked about mentorship. We talked about the Big Brother, Big Sisters program, but we also talked about other organizations that help with intervention. And on this resource page, one of our Black Student Union members has taken the time to do the research and make sure that you all were given intervention strategies. If there's someone here who has been in the system and you are having a hard time finding employment, there is a resource on that sheet to help you find employment. If it's Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, that's also on there. If you are a professional who's kind of gotten out of that lifestyle and you are looking to be a mentor, there's information there for that as well. So please drop off your evaluation and pick up a resource sheet. And if you feel like there's nothing on the resource sheet that you can individually benefit from, please pass it on to someone else who can. We paid for those to be printed, so please use them. Someone said that? Oh, okay. So, thank you again for coming out, and we will have some ushers ushering you to the post-reception room. We have some good food that we've paid to be catered, so please eat that too. But don't be greedy. Don't be greedy, but please get your fill. Okay, thank you so much for coming.